Let's look at the 10 most powerful motorcycles on sale in 2025. With the latest MotoGP machines capable of around 300 brake horsepower and the fastest nitromethane burning top fuel drag bikes producing nearly 1500 brake horsepower, that got me wondering, what's the most amount of power you can walk out of a dealership with in 2025? Sure, ultimate power isn't the full story for a bike. On two wheels, you could argue that nimble handling and good power to weight is far more valuable than just out and out power. Even the delivery of big power, is it all at the top end? Is it not easily accessed? For now, let's just look at the raw power figures. We're working with the figures claimed by the manufacturers, often calculated from the crank, so don't shoot the messenger. Let's look at the brawniest bikes of 2025 in power ascending order. The BMW M1000XR, 199 brake horsepower, also 22,508 pounds. We start our list at 199 brake horsepower, so the BMW M1000XR. If you want power and practicality, look no further. In recent years, BMW Motorrad has begun applying its M-Power performance philosophy from its cars to a selection of its motorcycles. The latest is the M1000XR. As its name suggests, it's an M version of its already potent 168 brake horsepower S1000XR adventure sports bike. Like that bike, it's an upright 4-cylinder based on the superbike. But where the S has a detuned version of the engine, the M gets the full Monty version with around 200 brake horsepower, 199. It's got uprated electronic suspension, it's got brakes to suit, and lightened carbon fibre bodywork that even includes MotoGP style aero wings. Upright touring has never been more bonkers. Next up, we're moving to 200 brake horsepower, and this is the Kawasaki ZX-10R. Although no longer reigning supreme in world superbikes with 7 world titles under its belt courtesy of Johnny Ray, the Japanese firm's long-dominating ZX-10R remains one of the most powerful motorcycles you can buy. Renowned for its high-revving, powerful motor, its slick electronics, it's also one of the most affordable bikes out there too, at least in this category. If you want your power-packed performance in a world superbike winning package, it's second only to the latest championship-winning BMW. Either way, it's a superb machine with 200 brake horsepower. Note that for 2025, Kawasaki has actually withdrawn its team entirely in favour of a new Kawasaki powered and owned by Motor entrant, but not yet available as a production bike as far as recording goes, hence its non-inclusion here. Next up, 205 brake horsepower, it's the MV Agusta Brutale 1000RR. Brutale, I don't know how you say it. Italian Exotica experts MV Agusta has a long history in world-beating superbikes, and its Brutale is effectively the super naked, unfaired version of its flagship sports bike. With the F4000 superbike now discontinued, the Brutale remains its performance king, and the latest version, introduced in 2020, comes in two forms: the standard 1000 RS, and here the up-spec'd, lower barred, 6,000 more expensive RR. In truth, like many Brutales, it's raw, demanding, not particularly comfortable, and so precious you might think twice about leaving it out in the drizzle, the rain. But it's also addictively powerful, it's superbly well built and equipped, and it looks like little else out there, and it's a crowd head turner. Everyone's going to be looking at this, if you can stomach its sky high price. But you do get 205 brake horsepower. Wow. Anyway, moving on, 210 brake horsepower, the BMW M1000R. As with the M1000XR, this M1000R is the German marque's tuned, uprated version of its already excellent 164 brake horsepower S1000R Super Naked. As such, with other M-Series bikes, and yes, there's another one to come, the M1000R gets an uprated engine, producing this time a full 210 brake horsepower. It's got revised suspension, uprated Nissin brakes, new carbon bodywork, and like the other M's, even aero winglets. The result remains, like the S1000R, one of the most practical and classy of the super nakeds. Hyper nakeds to some. But in M form, it has even more power and class to best nearly anything out there. Also, I recently rode this at Almeria, briefly. Great bike, check the video. Moving to 212 brake horsepower, we have the MV Agusta Rush. MV Agusta, haven't we already had their most powerful bike, the Brutale 1000RR? Well, yes and no. Whilst the £29,500 Brutale is the most mainstream offering, based on the Brutale, the Rush is a limited edition. There was just 300 being made, so you'll be very lucky to find one. so it's lucky you to even be on this list, to be fair. Even then, with even more power thanks to a race kit exhaust and ECU, it's got wild styling, including an almost solid disc looking rear wheel and the very best components motorcycling can buy. We had to include it. On the downside, it's eye-wateringly expensive, it's fairly raw and uncomfortable, and not much use for anything other than posing around Monaco. If that's what tickles your fancy, no power bike is more exclusive and eye-catching than this. At 214.6 brake horsepower, we know Honda love to be accurate, it's the Honda CBR1000RR-R SP. With the European marques BMW and Ducati most recently dominating world superbikes, the Japanese are a little thin on the ground here. Suzuki no longer sells its GSX-R 1000, in Europe at least. The Kawasaki ZX-10R has fallen a little bit behind, and the Yamaha R1M is 197 brake horsepower, and although winning the crown in 2021, it no longer meets Euro emissions regulations. So in Europe and the UK, it's now only offered as a track bike, which excludes its inclusion here. Honda, however, despite only fairly limited success over the past 2 decades, it last won the WSB crown in 2007, though it was also a very close one at the BSB 2024 finale at Brands Hatch. Very, very close indeed. Honda soldiers on, and its latest Fireblade is here. Though, still not yet a proven winner, it's the most sophisticated, focused and powerful Fireblade yet. Yes, too, it's peakier and less compromising than ever, but it also delivers a screaming 214.6 brake horsepower in one of the most sublime chassis you can buy, with some state-of-the-art suspension thrown in the mix too. If it's good enough for McGuinness going around the Isle of Man TT course, it's good enough for us. What a man. Next we have the 215 brake horsepower Ducati Panigale V4. We've gone for the R, but there's also the S. There's also a new one. Of course, World Superbikes is basically where a lot of these manufacturers will be going, and BMW, of course, with the M1000RR in 2024, delivered the World Superbike Championship. But Ducati are still there. They've got a lot of good things to say about the MotoGP bikes, and a lot of that bike trickles down into their road-going Panigales. The V4R is the production-based series that had a lot of the MotoGP influence. Introduced in 2018 as an all-new, now V4-powered successor to the Italian marque's previous V-twins, the Panigale V4 came out with 211 brake horsepower from the box, and an all-new monocoque chassis. The best parts available, had wild looks, and it had 3 forms. The base 1103cc V4, the up-spec'd semi-active suspension-equipped V4S, and the homologation special 998cc, but even more powerful and extreme R. With 215 brake horsepower with the race exhaust fitted, it's been the basis of the bike, which has taken Alvaro Bautista to 2 World Superbike crowns and remains the most powerful superbike available. Though, as of writing, the V4S has a listed 216 brake horsepower, as I've found out when I was riding a Panigale V4S lately. Check that video out. And the new V4 Lamborghini has 218 brake horsepower, and it weighs 185 kilograms. The power to weight goes crazy there. But we'll stick with this V4R, as it's just so lovely, and I think it might get forgotten about otherwise. At 218 brake horsepower, we've got the BMW M1000RR. When BMW first began releasing the M versions of its motorcycles, the S1000RR Superbike was its natural first subject, with the first result being the original BMW M bike. The 2021 M1000R with 218 brake horsepower, uprated suspension, brakes, carbon bodywork, and far more as options, this bike became BMW's basis for its production racing and World Superbike entries, and was then in turn significantly updated in 2023 to become the version you see here. The biggest change is not to its power or chassis, which remains unchanged, but to its new wind tunnel developed aero-equipped bodywork. Enough for it to not only become the dominant bike of choice at the TT, but also in 2024, after years of trying, they finally won the World Superbike Championship after a dominant display by Toprak Razgatlioglu. The M1000RR may not quite be the most powerful superbike out there, but it is the most wild looking, and it's not far off the top. Almost at the top though is the 220 brake horsepower Aprilia RS V4 factory. Yes, we know what you're thinking, Aprilia? I didn't know they do superbikes anymore. Well, they do. And they sort of don't. And this is the result. If you know your superbike history, you may remember that the Italian brand Aprilia revolutionized superbikes with its 2009 RS V4, a compact, powerful 1000cc V4 bristling with cutting-edge electronics, and so good it won the 2010 World Superbike crown for Max Biaggi, who repeated in 2012, with Sylvain Guintoli claiming a third in 2014. After that, however, it fell behind its rivals, with the result that in 2019 Aprilia turned its back on World Superbikes and gave its RS V4 the bigger engine from the Tuono V4 Super Naked. Aprilia says the Euro 5 Plus engine delivers 220 brake horsepower, and it even has a new Brembo High Pure front calipers. They rightly say it's the most powerful production superbike in the world. Nice one, Aprilia. But there is one more out there of a little bit more power. I say a little bit, quite a lot. And that's 322 brake horsepower with the Kawasaki H2R Ninja. Back in the 90s, the fastest, biggest power producing bikes of all were heavyweight hyperbike sports tourers, such as Kawasaki's 1990 147 brake horsepower ZX-10R 1100, Honda's 1995 164 brake horsepower Super Blackbird, and of course Suzuki's 199 brake horsepower 1999 Hayabusa. But with ever increasing concerns over speed, those bikes are now largely no more. And you'll notice 147 brake horsepower wouldn't even get on this list. But Suzuki's latest version of the Busa now lives on with 187 brake horsepower. But even then, that's blown away by Kawasaki's H2R, a track-only supercharged corporate statement of a hyperbike that produces a mind-melting 322 brake horsepower. And yes, if you're concerned about the track-only bit, there's also the road-legal Ninja H2, which still produces a claimed 228 brake horsepower. Mamma mia. That's all for now. What's your pick? Ciao.